Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military Summary channel, and this video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous 12 hours. We have lots of very interesting updates, so let's start. So as you may know, yesterday on Sunday of the 24th of November of 2025, a very important meeting took place on the territory of the Switzerland between Ukraine, European countries and the United States of America. According to information we have, there were two rounds of talks, and this is probably a first photo from the meeting between the US and Ukrainian delegations to discuss the American peace plan is being held in Geneva behind closed doors. Later, the sources published the second photo from the same room, as you can see, but this time, according to information we have, the European delegation joined the meeting. So these people were talking just about one thing, about, more precisely, not about one thing, but about 28 things that were included to the 28-point plan that was suggested, provided by the President of the United States of America, Donald Trump. They were talking about this plan, and the Ukrainian delegation and the delegation of the European Union were trying to change this plan in their favor. So during the previous 12 hours, we received at least two documents. The first document was published by European Union itself. Here we can see the full text of Europe's 24-point counter-proposal for peace plan. But we will not read this plan because, telling the truth, I read the plan, but telling the truth, I think that this is a pointless plan without any chances to survive. So I'm sure for 100% that the United States of America, that neither the United States of America nor the Russian Federation will consider this plan. I'm not talking about thinking about accepting or rejecting. They will not even consider, and they will not even waste their time for this. But there was another document, and when talking about the situation where the 28-point plan, the parties were trying to make some changes. And as we discussed during the previous videos, the Ukrainians and the European countries were trying to change four points of the plan. Lists of adjustments to Trump's plan from Kiev and Europe is being pushed today in negotiations in Switzerland. That was stated by Bloomberg. No withdrawal of troops from Donetsk, negotiations on territorial exchange only after a ceasefire along the current front line, security guarantees from the United States at the level of NATO Article 5, frozen Russian assets for the restoration of Ukraine, funds will remain blocked if Russia does not compensate for damages, and the US will receive compensation for the guarantees provided. Gradual lifting of sanctions upon Russian meeting conditions, the size of the armed forces of Ukraine, not the army of the armed forces of Ukraine, not less than 800,000 instead of 600,000, according to the original Trump's plan. So this is the situation, and you know that both the Russians, or both the Ukrainians and the Americans made statements that the situation is fine, that the talks were very constructive. The Ukrainians stated that they managed to make changes to the original plan of the President of the United States of America. So according to the Western media, everybody is happy. The Americans are happy, the Europeans are happy, and of course the Ukrainians are happy as well. But saying the truth, this is exactly what should have happened, because the United States of America several days ago issued an ultimatum to Zelensky and to Ukraine. Whether you accept the 28-point plan or you will lose, and you will lose very fast. So that is why we have, since the beginning of the situation, since the moment when this ultimatum was issued, Ukraine had around a week to make a decision whether to accept this ultimatum or not. So that is why we have a gap, we have a media space, we have lots of time. So that is why the Ukrainians and the Europeans, they realized that they yeah, they don't have any other option but to create a media victory, to create a show. And everything that we can see right now, everything that's happened on the territory of the Switzerland, every single statement that was made by European politicals, every single piece of news that is coming from Ukraine is just a part of a huge show media victory, or some show process that is currently taking place in Europe. But telling the truth, I have some doubts, and I'm not even sure that the United States of America will take this, for example, 24-point plan of Europe, or changed or adjusted 28-point plan of the United States of America, and will take this plan to the Russian Federation. I'm not sure about this, because everybody understands that it's just a waste of time. And I'm not even sure that on the 27th of November of 2025, when the US generals comes to Ukraine, they will ask Zelensky about adjusted plan or about a European plan. It's something tells me that generals of the United States of America will ask about the original plan, and they will ask Zelensky whether he's going to accept the plan or not. And the sources are saying if Zelensky rejects the plan, most likely the United States of America will stop supplying Ukraine with weapons. They will stop supplying NATO with weapons that later would be transferred to the territory of Ukraine, and they will stop sharing with intelligence information. Today, several sources reported that several pro-American sources stated that anyway, Ukraine will lose Donbas within the next 12 months. And if the United States of America stops sending weapons to Ukraine, this might happen even faster. As for the President of the United States of America, Donald Trump, during the previous 24 hours, he made just one statement on the matter. He stated that Ukraine leadership has expressed zero gratitude for our efforts, and Europe continues to buy oil from Russia. So we see that despite the fact that Marco Rubio and different American and European politicals stated that everything is okay, we see that the President of the United States of America isn't happy, which means that most likely this is the real situation, that the situation is very unhappy for Ukrainians, for Russians, and for Europeans, because most likely the plan, the 28-point plan, would be rejected by the Russian Federation, especially if the plan would be adjusted by Ukraine. Anyway, let's wait and see what is going to be next. There are still 3 days. During these 3 days, Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, will travel to the United States of America to discuss some points with Trump, and then most likely we're going to see a final decision. Now let's discuss the situation on the ground. During the previous 12 hours, we have lots of very interesting changes. And first, let's talk about the Zaporizhzhia direction, where the Russians continue their offensive operation. During the previous 12 hours, as you can see, the map has been updated. So this is the situation by the end of the 23rd of November, and this is the situation by the beginning of the 24th of November. The neutral mapper stated that Russians managed to improve their position significantly around the settlement of Stepnogorsk. Now the citadel of Stepnogorsk is obviously under complete encirclement of the armed force of the Russian Federation, and it seems that the battle for this territory is coming to its logical end. The Ukrainians in coming days would be forced to fall back from this territory. The Russians will maintain the lines, will regroup, and then continue offensive operation further. And most likely Russians first of all will try to attack in the eastern direction towards the city by the name of Orekhov. As for the city of Orekhov, during the previous 24 hours, pro-Ukrainian sources of 65th Mechanized Brigade published this video. And in this video, we can see the offensive operation that was carried out by the armed force of the Russian Federation several days ago. If you remember, a few days ago, the pro-Ukrainian source made a statement and made a very interesting article on their social network that the Russians launched offensive operation, and that offensive operation was repelled by Ukrainians, but we still haven't seen anything that can give us additional details about the situation. And this morning, pro-Ukrainian sources published the video, this one that we have just seen, watched, and according to this video and based based on this video and based on the reports of different neutral mappers, we adjusted the map. So currently we have proofs, we have a video proof that confirms that the Russians, as a result of offensive operation, managed to answer the settlement of Novodanilovka. Furthermore, I would like to remind you that during October and November, the Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation confirmed Russian control over the settlement of Mala Takmachka. As for now, we don't know for sure what is the status of Novodanilovka, whether there are very heavy clashes or the Russians managed to stabilize the situation. So most likely the Russians are trying to stabilize, but now it's clear that most likely Russians in coming days will continue their offensive operation towards the city of Orekhov from three directions: from the south, from the southeast, and most likely from the west, from the city of Stepnogorsk. Now let's talk about the Gulyai-Polye direction. During the previous 12 hours, we received small updates from this area. First of all, according to different mappers, the Russians improved their positions on the line between the settlements of Vidradna and Tikha. I would like to remind you that just yesterday the Russians captured the settlement of Tikha, and they published this video where we can see how Russian soldiers were raising flags in different parts. And today different mappers specified and clarified the situation along the river of Volcha. So basically the Russians managed to establish complete control over the Russian side of the river of Volcha around the settlement of Tikha. Furthermore, the Russians began bombing and attacking the R85 road between the city of Gulyai-Polye and Varvarovka. Here we can see how Russians began bombing and attacking positions of the armed forces of Ukraine along through the road of R85, which means that the Russians are moving in this direction, and maybe in coming days the Russians will cut the road physically. Now let's talk about the Pokrovsk direction. There are still a lot of interesting, the situation here is very difficult. And I would like to remind you that yesterday pro-Ukrainian sources reported that they managed to counter-attack in the area of the city of Pokrovsk and to restore control almost over the entire northern part. But Ukrainians haven't provided us any proofs, any videos that can confirm this. So that is why, of course, based on just empty statements, we are not going to change anything. From the other side, Russians published video from the southern part of the city of Pokrovsk, which is also very far from the most northern part, but here we can see a Russian soldier that raised the Russian flag on the territory of a hospital. So this is a hospital, central hospital of Ukraine, of the city of Pokrovsk, and a Russian soldier raised the flag exactly at this point. So based on this video, as we can see, we haven't adjusted anything, but the most important thing is that we still haven't received anything when we are talking about videos with flags from the most northern part, which means that probably the territory to the north of the railways is still a gray zone, or the territory covered with the fog of war, and currently there are positions both of Russians and Ukrainians, and there are still very heavy clashes. Very interesting video we received from the area of the TO515 road. This one. Let's discuss this video in details, because this video shows us the exact and the real situation around the city of Mirnograd, and this video shows us and give us an answer to the question: what is the status of Ukraine counterattacks and what the Ukrainians are able to do in coming days. And here we can see the only supply line that Ukrainians used to have, and probably the Ukrainians still use this area for evacuation rotation process. And as you can see, the territory is completely covered with the destroyed vehicles, infantry fighting vehicles, just light cars of the armed forces of Ukraine that were involved in the logistic process. So this is the Mirnograd cemetery with dozens of Ukrainian vehicles that were destroyed there. So maybe the Ukrainians are counterattacking right now to the north of the city of Pokrovsk. Maybe that was just a media counterattack with the purpose to improve Ukraine's positions during the talks in Geneva. We don't know for sure. But one thing is clear, that even if there is a counteroffensive operation from the Ukrainian side, currently Ukraine is paying a significant price for this. Now let's move further. and let's discuss the situation in the settlement by the name of Rodinska. The map has been adjusted in this area as well. The map was adjusted yesterday based on the geolocation that was published by pro-Ukrainian sources, and today the map has been adjusted once again. So this video was published by pro-Ukrainian sources, and here we can see how an FPV drone of the armored forces of Ukraine was flying in the central part of the settlement of Rodinska along the Lenina Street, and how Ukrainians attacked a Russian soldier exactly at this point. So based on this video, we came to the conclusion that the Russians continue improving their positions on the territory of the settlement of Rodinska, and most likely in coming days Ukrainians would be forced to fall back from this area completely. A bit further in the northeastern direction, it seems that the battle for the settlement of Shakhova are finished. So this is the situation by the end of the 23rd of November of 2025, and the Russians secured the southern part according to different sources, and by the beginning of the 24th of November of 2025, according to neutral mappers, the armed forces of the Russian Federation managed to establish complete control over the settlement of Shakhova. Ukrainians were forced to fall back from this area, and now Ukrainians are trying to stabilize the situation on the line between the settlements of Toretska and Sofievka. The Russians continue offensive operation. Now let's discuss the situation in the Siversk-Liman direction. During the previous 24 hours, small changes were recorded. I would like to remind you that just yesterday, several sources, including the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation, stated that the settlement of Pazena was captured by the armed forces of the Russian Federation. And today, this morning, we received additional updates, and according to these updates, the Russians began their offensive operation on the territory of the settlement of Vasyukovka along the Vasyukovka River. So most likely in coming days, the Russians will try to maintain the lines between the settlements of Pazena, Vasyukovka and Zaleznyanskaya. So it seems that the Slaviansk-Kramatorsk offensive operation is brewing. Furthermore, the sources reported that the Russians managed to cut physically the TO-513 road between the settlements of Zakitne and Liman on the entire its length. So this is the situation according to different mappers by the morning of the 24th of November. Everything between Zakitne and the settlement of Liman along TO-513 was captured by the armored forces of the Russian Federation during the previously carried out offensive operations. In the northern direction, the Russians continue moving in the direction of the city of Liman from the northwest and from the north. So we expect that the battle for Liman will start in December of 2025. And that's it for the short video. Military Summary channel reminds we condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye-bye.